I don't know what has happened genuinely over the past like month. Honestly, it hasn't even been that long. Gacha communities have been up in arms with each other for as long as time remains. Bro, over the past month, Gacha communities have been so down each other's throats, bro. Slorp glorping that shit. It is insane. I got recommended a video to watch yesterday called I Know Exactly What You Think, even though I haven't heard a word you said. Apparently, it's Soros's take on the Gacha tribalism issue, which I'm sure I will have a lot of points to discuss on this one with the recent controversy that is going down in the Gacha space yet again. Let's just take a look at this, dude, and see. I
With
have no
Nodcry
idea,
bringing
dude.
Genshin back and Wuwa making waves, it's time to talk about tribalism. The Gacha space is forever filled with rage and divisive takes, with
100%.
people picking sides and refusing to engage with one another. If my experience is anything to go by, it's very easy to get caught in the crossfire, and many—
Soros just got a ton of hate, by the way, for the Nodcry feels like Genshin again video. I saw it all over Twitter. There were people berating her, calling her every name under the sun for making that video. Honestly, dude, when I watched it, I didn't really see a problem with it. It was just a lot of opinions about character designs and why she feels like they didn't necessarily fit the overall, like, existing theme of Genshin, and they were trying something new, and it's good to try something new. I thought it was a very well thought out video, but again, Twitter will be Twitter and make a problem out of everything. It's kind of crazy.
People will take a simple misunderstanding and extrapolate from there until they think they know everything about your perspective.
Absolutely.
A lot of this is the fault of content creators, or if not fault, at least responsibility. But
I think a lot of it comes down to content creators, but also it's been blown so much out of proportion nowadays, dude, that a lot of people are putting sole blame on content creators when I don't think that's fair either. Hey, for once, it's not me. There's always something with this guy. Apparently, there's always something with fucking everybody. I don't think content creators are like your parents. I don't think the content creators of a game are like parents to children when it comes to the community of said game. When it comes to their own community, you can do so much, but you can't stop tribalism as a content creator, right? It's just not feasible. It really isn't. And I'm sure she's going to go more into detail about this, so we'll go ahead and let her speak on
unfortunately,
it.
the incentives created by the platforms we use and basic human nature makes this whole mess almost inevitable. Fortunately, while the people who revel in all of that are loud, they are a minority.
So I think what she's talking about here is the drama creators that make drama about these games, right? And although I agree with that, I think she herself is a prime example of why they are not the only conduits for gacha tribalism and for problems when it comes to people misrepresenting content creator points, right? Because again, she literally made her last video about Nodcry, and it was a lot of positive points, and sure, there was a couple of negatives in there, but that got twisted by the Genshin community, not even by a different community. It was by people that play the game into so many different ways, twisted up and down, fucking shoved up people's asses and brought out the other side just to make her seem like she's just a terrible person. And it's fucking crazy, dude. Absolutely crazy.
And while it's a little annoying to have to deal with, I do find it fascinating. But what is tribalism anyway? People emotionally invest in the things they care about, be it sports teams, political perspectives, or things like gacha games.
Absolutely.
Once someone aligns themselves with a specific game or character or creator, they immerse themselves in a niche where all of those around them feel the same about those things. They feel a sense of community, which makes them feel less alone, and their perspective gets reinforced. But then, when they encounter someone who thinks differently, it no longer feels like a simple disagreement. Instead, it's seen as an attack on their identity.
Yeah, it feels like a fucking war, right? The Hoyoshils versus the Kuro bots, a prime example. It's
and so, of course, they respond with vitriol. People start defending multi-billion-dollar corporations like they're a childhood friend. One interesting aspect is how often they have a gigantic blind spot. When they see the same behavior in others who like a different game, they can see how ridiculous it is, but instead of re-evaluating their own perspective, they double down, and whenever the two communities are placed in opposition, anger and controversy erupts.
100%.
Why is this content everywhere? Why do creators embrace it? What are the consequences? And why do I have to deal with the fallout? A key part in this is the role of content creators, and for many it begins with the subtle influence of the algorithm and other similar incentives. Platforms like YouTube reward divisiveness, controversial titles and thumbnails get more clicks, toxic rhetoric gets more comments, hot takes get widely shared and drive engagement. An easy way to stand out amongst a sea of voices clamoring for attention is to make a scene. The algorithm—
So I agree with this to a certain point, but it's like, there's tons of people that only speak positive that still get a shit ton of views, right? I mean, people that argue that when I was just hyper positive about Genshin stuff on YouTube, my views were better about Genshin stuff. You have people like Ziox that don't really, or at least for the most part, don't really get involved with controversy, and I think he's probably one of the largest gacha creators in general. But there are people, a lot of people, that will only make negative content because it is like algorithmically an easier way to get more views. Again, because it divides people and it does cause a scene and an argument. Absolutely, for sure.
Algorithm sees the whirlwind of activity this creates as a positive and rewards it with ever more exposure. In contrast, a thoughtful, balanced analysis with a less bombastic title will often fade into obscurity, even if it's far more well.
You say that, but again, her video was literally that, bro, and she still got absolutely fucking slated on the internet for just having an opinion.
Researched and well presented than your average slot 2 content. This leaves creators who see this as more than just a hobby with a tough decision to make. Take the road which they know has a higher chance of leading to success, even if it's not the kind of content they really care for, or gamble their entire career on the hope they'll find a way to build an audience without resorting to those tactics. And intentionally or not, creators often lean into it at least a little to drive engagement. When something gets a lot more views, there's a natural pressure to keep producing similar content. Exaggerated emotions and hyperbolic statements keep a certain type of audience coming back, so you'll see creators screaming at the screen in excitement when reacting to a trailer, or crashing out in rage when a game does something they're not happy with.
Yeah, and hey, don't get it twisted. A lot of those reactions can also just be people's fucking Bro, I raged... Oh my god, bro. Expedition 33. I raged so fucking much at that game. That was not exaggerated. I was deadass just pissed off. Dark Souls, I deadass just get really pissed off when I fail over and over again. It's not even exaggerated. Even in my own time, I'd be doing the same shit.
I'd be surprised if they actually react like that when not on camera. And if they do, I hope they get some help.
What the fuck? Fuck you.
Everything becomes a spectacle, full of posturing and...
I don't think it's a bad thing to get hyper excited about stuff either, to be fair. I don't. Like, if I'm with a bunch of friends, because this is the thing, right? When you're streaming, you're not just yourself sat in front of a screen watching something. You also have an audience, and that audience is a group of people, realistically. I don't see you all as a number on the screen. I see you all as people watching me, and we're watching shit together. So if I get super excited when watching something, most of the time it's because I know we're all excited together. It's like sitting in a room with a bunch of friends and waiting for a fucking trailer for something you've been waiting for, right? It's a fun experience. So I don't know. I think that's a sly dig, a weird dig, actually. But I think it's fine to show positive and negative emotion about stuff. Even if you are just sat on your own, fuck it, bro. Who gives a fuck?
Point scoring, the actual games get pushed aside, and it's easy for everyone to lose perspective. And once you start yelling and hyperventilating about one thing, even just for the effect, if you don't do that the next time, then people will feel you're no longer quite as enthusiastic, and since that's what they're there for, they might just drift away. Many creators get stuck in a loop where they have to resort to hyperbole whenever talking about things they love or hate. And unfortunately, every creator who leans into this is setting up a feedback loop of reinforcing bias in their audience. Those kinds of reactions appeal the most to people who themselves are particularly passionate about that.
This is why I've started just posting about anything and everything at this point, bro. Whether it's positive or negative. Because I don't want that kind of, like she's saying, that kind of like an echo chamber, right? Of people, if they get used to so much positivity and then they see something negative, they're like, oh, this guy's turning into a fucking negative Nancy. Like, no, I don't want to be known as a positive guy or a negative guy. I want to be known as a guy that's okay just speaking his mind about what he's fucking feeling at the time. Like, I'm human just like everybody fucking else, you know?
That subject. Whether that's love for one thing or hatred for another. So the more it happens, the more it builds and builds. And then once you have an audience who all feel a particular way about something, any deviation from that expected line.
I know for a fact there are people watching this stream right now and this YouTube video right now that, number one, absolutely love Genshin Impact, and number two, fucking despise the game. Same for Wu War, same for other stuff. I know there's people watching right now that don't give a shit about gacha games in general, and I love it that way now. Dead ass, I fucking love that.
Might feel like a betrayal to them. The more passionate the fan base, the more intense the tribal expectations become. That's a recipe for audience capture, erasure of nuance, and even creator burnout, punished if they were playing it up even just a little.
It does.
And I think the consequences of that point bear much greater emphasis. There are many different reasons people create content: to entertain, to connect with others, to help people play smarter, to share passion for the things they enjoy, to think critically and spark interesting conversations, or, of course, just to chase success. Tribalism inflames some of these motivations while suppressing others. Many find it entertaining, and it can create a sense of belonging and bring the creator that success. But building an audience around it reinforces those perverse incentives even further and leaves you with less scope to engage in more nuanced discussions. And as many creators discover, even if you go ahead and make that content anyway, some people in your comments will tell you in no uncertain terms that they don't appreciate you stepping out of the space you created for your...
Absolutely. I've had this time and time again, which is, again, why we're creating a new space at this point. Not gonna cap. That's how I feel about it. We're creating a new space. We're not gonna create a space where it's just talking good about things all the time or talking bad about things all the time. We're creating a space where people can say what the fuck they want. Like, obviously within reason. Obviously no fucking, you know, racist shit or anything like that. It's fucking gross. But I'm talking like, about it's fucking video games, dude. At the end of the day, it's not that fucking deep.
Yourself. Instead, many find themselves in a downward spiral with no way to get out. And unfortunately, whenever all of this is normalized, it spreads out into the rest of the space as well, and other creators who did not make those same choices have to deal with the consequences too. When people are used to creators who act this way, it's natural for them to assume that everyone else does as well. Even if you present your thoughts in a more calm and measured way, they will suspect you're being disingenuous and invent ulterior motives behind your words. I'm here because there are things I feel compelled.
But it's also like, and this is what I mean, like putting it all on creators is also disingenuous, in my opinion. Like, in her experience, maybe that's the case, right? But I've seen countless fucking times, bro, like, there'll be people in my comments. Like, before I even started making the content that I'm making now, there'd be people in my comments when I was playing Genshin, even before Wu War came out and there was any, like, competition. There would be people that are like, this game fucking sucks. And then in those replies, I vividly remember people would be like, oh, typical tech tone watcher, right? And then people, like, they'd say, who? Like, they just don't like the game, dude. Like, people assume there's an influence from this content creator because that's what they see a lot, but it's not everyone. People will take part in Gacha Tribalism without the outside influence of a content creator. That's just the world that we fucking live in, because people are divisive. Just as a natural human being, that is the case. That's just the case, dude.
To talk about.
Just is.
If that brings in an audience, then that's amazing. And I'll always appreciate anyone who takes the time to hear my thoughts. But I still talk about the same things, even if it didn't. But unfortunately, thanks to the state of things in general, there's no way to convince some people of that fact.
Nope, there's not.
A while back, I made a video about my experience returning to Wuthering Waves.
Oh,
yes,
God.
This one again. I enjoyed the game at first, but ended up a little underwhelmed by the time we reached the end of version 1, largely because the exploration didn't feel like exploring to me. I stopped playing for a while, and I didn't make a video like why I stopped playing Wuwa, because at the end of the day, it was a very good game with a clear target audience, even if it wasn't for me. Then, when version 2 dropped, I tried it again and found that the changes to the exploration made it feel fantastic for
they fucking killed it with 2.x, to be honest.
My preferences. A perfect opportunity to make the kind of video I enjoy. One which explores the pros and cons of different approaches to game design and praises the devs for making such huge improvements for people like me without making it any less fun for the people who had enjoyed the game before. That's an incredibly hard balance to strike, and it deserves far more recognition.
I played Wu War since day one.
I went out of my way to make it clear that even in version 1, for many people who wanted something different from the game, the choices we were made were objectively great. Overall, Kura did a good job, and they just took it to another level in Rinasita. I made 2 mistakes in that video. The first was assuming people would understand. The script I wrote was over twice as long at first, with much more detailed explanation of where my perspective came from. But since it all seemed...
See, this is weird. When I do a scripted video, and I don't do them very often, I did it for like the news update channel stuff, right? All of those videos are scripted. The one piece of advice that I was given that really stuck with me was when scripting a video, just assume people will understand. And a lot of the time, people just do. I think people do understand these things that she's saying. They just act like they don't, for the purpose of being part of this tribalism, right? yeah, kind of like the mob mentality. Sure, there'll be some people that don't understand, but I think most people do. They just turn a blind eye to it.
Obvious to me, I cut it down to the minimum. The second was living in my own little bubble where people enjoy hearing perspectives which are different from their own. Instead, a certain group of people heard even the mildest critique and interpreted it as a hate-filled rant from someone with a dark and biased agenda. To this day, many of them just assume that's where I'm coming from. I should have done a better job of getting my point across, and I'm thankful to the many people who had
Bro, I've seen these videos. At no point does she come across as somebody who fucking hates Woo-Wah. It's not the case. I think she did a perfectly fine job of getting her point across. I think people are just looking for problems.
Discussions on that video which gave me the chance to explain myself more clearly. It's just a shame that some people are so tribalistic that they can't even bring themselves to hear a different point of view.
Yep.
The main change this has led to in my videos is that I'm more comfortable letting them be whatever length gives me the room to get my point across, even if it's far longer than the 10 to 15 minutes I had aimed for previously.
For sure.
I still try to condense them down to be respectful of people's time, but on balance, it's better to be a little more relaxed. It's still sad that people are so insecure in their own thoughts that when someone disagrees with them, they feel the need to attack, but at least I made some fun merch out of my favorite of the comments.
Nice.
As that example emphasizes, at least I made some fun merch out of my
Too long didn't watch woman.
favorite of the comments.
Too long didn't watch woman. She didn't even know what she wanted. What the fuck?
As that example emphasizes, people get used
I'd buy that merch.
to all of this pretty quickly, begin to think in terms of us versus them, and start to aggressively apply that to creators too. When people see the world through this lens of tribalism, they're forever trying to fit people into those neat and tidy categories. Any critique of something they like, especially if they didn't experience the downsides for themselves, will instantly see you written off as a hater, a grifter, or even an outright racist if you happen to feel disappointed with something even vaguely associated with non-Western cultures.
Oh, I think that's a brief callback to her last video when she was literally getting called racist for giving her opinion on the Natlan character designs and why she felt like they simply didn't feel like Genshin designs usually do.
Any praise for something they dislike,
kind of wish
and
she called that out more on the nose, but I guess it is what it is.
A disingenuous shill who is only in it for the views. And of course, if you express concern over things like power creep, the direction of the end game, the predatory practices, and so on, then you just suck at the game and you're salty that you can't get all the rewards.
Yeah.
From just a single video, people extrapolate an entire worldview, an idea of who you are as a person, and nothing will convince them that they might have been mistaken.
True.
And the moment they have that in mind, either from some past encounter or just because their echo chamber said so, they'll remain forever convinced that they are right. Instead of engaging with a discussion like most people would, and saying things like, I disagree with your take because, they come in with heated argument against the thing they think you said, even if they haven't watched the video at all, and often
That is a very common thing, by the way. People that are literally just not watching the videos at all. They watch like the first 30 seconds and then make an entire assumption on the rest of the like 20+ minute video, and then make an essay in the comments that they could have watched the video in the time it took to fucking think about and write about this fucking essay that they do. I'm telling you, it's kind of crazy.
do not even have the slightest clue what you actually talked about. One of the most important skills in life is the ability to listen and to learn.
Yep.
Nobody knows everything. Nobody is right 100% of the time.
True.
And there is no such thing as objective fact when you're talking about opinions on a video game. Anyone who claims to that is being disingenuous or is locked into their own personal echo chamber. For anyone who does this, just know you're missing out. Those of us who can handle differences of opinion have much richer and more nuanced experience with the games we play because we get to hear how other people felt about it too. And it does make you wonder what the end game of these people is. Do they want the new people to the game to feel afraid of sharing their perspective since they know they might just get attacked for disagreeing? Do they
I really don't know what the end game is, dude, because honestly, there's different layers to this tribalism, right? I feel like there's some people that literally will just say, like, they will defend a multi-billion-dollar company because they just really want the company to succeed, or that they're so far gone that it's all about the company, right? They don't give a shit about anything else. They want people to stop playing other competitive games and only play their favorite game by their favorite company. But I think that's a very small amount of people. I feel like a lot of the tribalistic people, bro, are just doing it to get a rise out of people, to be honest. I think they're just doing it because it's fucking entertaining. I think there's more layers than just that. Absolutely. I think there's some people that put content creators on a pedestal as well and expect them to make specific content just for them. The amount of people that I've had saying like, oh, you should just do this content on a different channel because I didn't subscribe for this. It's like, okay, and I didn't ask you to subscribe for one specific thing. My content is not for one specific person. right? My audience will find me, and that's just how it is. Like, I'm not making content for one type of person. Like, that's just not the fucking case.
They want videos filled with more caveats than content? Do they want any strong opinions to just be left unsaid? Do they want creators to lie to them and hide their true perspective out of fear of getting hate? Or do they really want a world where the moment someone isn't completely ecstatic with a game, they have to stop talking about it at all? Because I have news for them. No game is perfect. If that's the bar we have to pass, then nobody would ever talk about anything. Personally,
I had an unironic comment on my summer event video saying, what was it actually? Hold on. I can find it real quick. Girl, you look so tired. Maybe take a break will help, or just quit the game. I did not expect this plain reaction to a content creator. We, as regular casual players, enjoy it more genuinely than you who make this kind of video for a living. Get a fucking job, bro. What do you want me to do? Fucking react harder? Oh my god! Bennett! Oh. Be careful, bro! Come the fuck on, bro. Jesus fucking Christ. Fuck off. Get a job.
I look at content creators who analyze films, TV, books, and so on, and wish more of the gaming sphere would follow that blueprint.
True.
Over there, people analyze what makes films tick, what makes the best successful, what
Oh, also, yeah, Errol, thank you for the tier 1. Sorry, I didn't know if you said that.
flaws made others fail to reach their full potential. It's fascinating, and every time I'm left with a deeper appreciation for the art, even if I disagreed with a creator's perspective. Those are the videos I try to create, and one of my favorite things is seeing comments which start with "thanks for sharing your perspective," even though I completely disagree. Thankfully, it seems like only a minority, even in the gaming sphere,
It's very rare that you get those comments, to be fair, that are worded in such a nice way.
die-hard tribes people. So many people are open, engaged, and have such interesting things to say which bring new understanding to the conversation. The tribes people often feel louder, but in my comments at least, the ones who want to explore ideas together are much more prevalent. And one aspect of this tribalism, which I'm actually in two minds about, is the way people reject creators who wish to return to games they used to love. The reason I'm in two minds about this is that there are, undeniably, creators who deliberately stoke the flames in the hopes of getting views, and these creators can genuinely make a community fall apart. When they move on to a different game, it can feel like a relief, because when the toxicity is gone, those who stick around have far more space to have nuanced discussions. But at the same time, many others get lumped in.
The thing is, people, this is exactly what's happened, bro, right? I'm gonna try and structure this in a way that actually makes sense, but this is not a scripted video, so I might, like, slip up on words every now and then, but you'll get the general gist of what I'm about to say. A lot of people, when Tectone was a part of the Genshin community specifically, right, before we were and stuff, kind of villainized him, whether right or wrong, for kind of always bringing up the negative and not really talking about the positive, right? Sounds kind of similar to what people are saying I do now, but at the time, I'm pretty sure, like, don't get me wrong, Tectone had a fucking humongous ego. Fucking humongous ego. Obviously, if a game company changes a game mechanic, especially about the gacha system, like the weapon banner system, right, and it's largely to do with your, like, popularity and your complaints, then obviously, like, you're gonna get a bit of a fucking ego from that, even if it was just coincidental. I actually don't think it was coincidental. I think it did have something to do with it. Yes, Tectone might have stoked the fire on some drama stuff. Is that the end of the world? I really don't think it is. But people kind of put everybody into the same bracket when something similar happens, right? I think it's normal for content creators to develop an ego. I think most people have an ego, to be honest. Even these people that are part of the tribalistic communities have an ego to some extent, right? So when Tectone left the Genshin community, right, and started on these other games, people were rejoicing. I remember it, dude. They were literally rejoicing. And it's like, yeah, no more negativity in the community. Bro, I'm gonna keep it a buck. It's just got worse. I don't think that's entirely to do with Tectone. Sure, I think he had a hand to play in it, just as a lot of other creators, by the way, have had a big hand to play in it, myself included, and a lot of other CCs. Can think of fucking, even like Mr. Pokey for HSR, Saint Hontus for WooWa and Genshin and stuff, right? There's a lot of people that are stoking the fire here. For sure. To be fair, he's had a big part of it, for sure. Maybe he has. But every time this happens and people leave, people are like, the good guys are here. And people put me in that bracket. However, I think it is only a matter of time when you play something for so long and you see all of the good and all of the bad. I think it is only a matter of time before people start talking more about the bad. Because you can only say so much about the good, but when the bad is so prevalent at certain points, it becomes a bigger problem. It kind of snowballs into something else. Basically, what I'm saying is content creators can get pushed out of spaces, they can leave of their own accord, and even if they brought negativity, it doesn't prevent other creators from talking about the problems in different or even the same ways. I think a lot of the complaints that I, along with many other content creators, have with things like Genshin at the minute are things that are just echoing what Tectone said in the past, and that's why people are like, oh my god, he's becoming Tectone 2.0, and people are terrified of that, because when he left the community, they were like, rejoice, the negativity's gone, but then as soon as somebody else comes in and starts criticizing, it's like, oh, he's back, but he's using somebody else as a puppet. Oh my goodness, this is Tectone 2.0, the mechanical variant. Oh my god, it's the second? No, bro, it's not the fucking second coming of Christ or Voldemort. It's literally just someone having complaints and criticisms about a goddamn video game. This tribalism doesn't help that fact. Absolutely, it doesn't. But again, I think that's why putting it all on content creators is just a bad thing. People are their own people. I think there's a lot of people that are part of this tribalistic nature that don't just stem from content creators, albeit again, I will say, I think a large majority of people probably do.
But at the same time, many others get lumped in with this as well. Even creators who have always been constructive get this treatment, even if they barely shared why they moved on to something else in the first place.
Back to the top of the hand, this is about me at this point.
And it would be a net positive to the space, yet people treat them just the same. And there are those in the middle too, people who criticize out of genuine love for the game, and maybe lean into the hyperbole because that's what drives the algorithm. It's kind of sad, but it feels like that might be the price you agree to pay when you make those kinds of choices. I'm all for giving people second chances, but I understand those who feel their bridges have been burned.
Absolutely.
I guess it just depends how far they took it and how honest they were along the way. The people in my comments who fall the most into tribalism regularly devolve into pure comedy, to the point where I could half believe that they were legitimately joking. For example, ever since that video about Renacita, which I mentioned earlier, there have been a handful of people who like to comment on every Woowa video I make and to assume I'm making some unfounded criticism, even when it's the polar opposite of what my video actually says. The comments
Yeah, I guess points in general kind of get twisted and warped into something that you never actually said a lot of the time.
Which made me want to finally make this video were from a week or two ago when I made a video speculating about Frolova. She's a prominent antagonist who had been in the story from the beginning, who was about to become playable. For a long time, I had wanted to talk about the disappointing pattern across gachas in general, where antagonists have their misdeeds wiped away, and this was the perfect opportunity. The video explores where people's concerns came from, why antagonists and villains are so important to stories, why I disagree with the idea that evil doesn't sell, and then covers up
evil sells good, dude. I have seen plenty of situations where evil sells good, even in even in fucking FPS games, dude. Like dead ass, even in FPS games, if you get to play as a bad guy, people love that shit. In story games, if you get to play as a bad guy, people love that shit. One of the first things that people did in the fucking Harry Potter game was choose the fucking Path of the Dark Lord or something, right? Avada Kedavra, people enjoy it. People love it.
Past encounters with Frolova and the 3 paths they could have taken with her. Keep her as a pure villain, add context but keep her towards the darker end of moral grey, or turn her into an uwu doppelganger. Obviously, I wanted the first or second, and I had faith that Kuro would deliver. As I said in the video, I felt the middle option was most likely. And as I'll cover in more detail in my next video, they did a fantastic job with her story, and she's a shining example of what I want from an antagonist in any game.
Me too.
My original
She's
video
great.
was correct on every point. And yet, the moment they played Frolova's story, these commenters piled into my video and said my take had aged like milk. Apparently, I wonder how they'll handle this, and hope they'll go with option B is a bad.
I've had that a couple of times, but nothing ever super serious, I think. I think the only time I've really had that was, well, I have had it with Woowa specifically. I posted a video on the day of the patch. It should have gone up a day before, but it was a day late. And it was actually a reaction to a fucking Saurus video, and it was the stop redeeming evil characters, right? The video itself was actually literally what people wanted and what Woowa gave. It was a video about, I want Woowa to break the curse, the gacha curse of these gacha games redeeming all the evil characters just to make an excuse to make them playable. That was the video, and I agreed, and I said a ton that I agreed. I was like, yeah, this is a great video. I actually think it makes a really fucking good point like, I hope Wuwa breaks this curse. And then obviously I uploaded that on the day of the patch and people were like, yeah, this is a fucking terrible take because they didn't watch the fucking video. Bro, that shit had an 80% like 20% dislike ratio on that video, even though there was literally, like, the people that were disagreeing didn't actually disagree. They just didn't watch the fucking video. It's like the attention span just wasn't fucking there. And then people loved the reaction to the actual quest because obviously they're gonna watch the whole thing and not just jump to conclusions. So I definitely get this. People's opinions do change very quickly, but also the point before about people not watching the entire videos and stuff, I think it's very important. Very important.
Take, especially when they do indeed go with option B. It's wild to me that people will so confidently leave a public comment on something they so clearly know nothing about.
Yep.
While I enjoy the entertainment that comes from having these bizarre takes in my comments, I can't help but feel sad for these people who probably miss out on so many interesting discussions because of their myopia. And in the interests of balance, it's important to note that while my two examples so far have focused on Wuthering Waves, it's just as prevalent in other communities as well. My takes on Nutland, for example. Again, I always take pains to emphasize that my perspective is just that, one person's view on the experience and far from objective truth. Many people had a different experience, and I've had many enlightening discussions with them which helped me appreciate the story in ways which the original experience sadly didn't capture for me. That's the whole point of my videos. To acknowledge that everyone feels differently about each part of the game, to spark discussion, and through exploring what made me feel the way I did, to get to learn why other people had a different take. But of course, many people hate it when you
I see the points at the bottom here and it makes me nervous what's about to come.
give
Jesus.
even the mildest of critiques, and in their mind it becomes, I hate this is stupid, anyone who likes it is stupid, and it should not exist. Guess that might just be how they approach things that they don't like.
Probably.
I just posted a video where I tried to explore why I personally had such a different reaction to the upcoming Not Cry character designs compared to the ones from Nutland. I leaned on my background in design and focused on the part that matters at this point given how little we know about Not Cry. The visuals, the aesthetics, the vibes, all highly subjective, which I made clear from start to finish, and many people said they had the same experience. Other commenters pointed to the lore as the justification for the way Hoyo handled Nutland, but frankly, lore explains why things might be the way they are, but that doesn't change.
The lore in Nutland was really fucking good for like the main progression of the story. But are people saying lore here for character designs? I mean, that's always the case, right? Lore always plays into character designs, I feel like.
They had the same experience. Other commenters pointed to the lore as the justification for the way Hoyo handled Nutland, but frankly, lore explains why things might be the way they are, but that doesn't change the experience of how people felt towards the designs at first. One comes before the other, and the more disjointed the first impressions are, the more the lore and story would have to fix in order for things to feel coherent by the end. For many of us, it simply did not bridge that gap, and even that's beside the point. The video was not an attempt to gather evidence and present an argument. It was not about right or wrong.
It just felt like a think piece to me, to be honest.
At all. It was an observation that lots of people feel a similar way about these things, and an exploration of where those feelings come from. But while those commenters got their hackles raised and ended up missing the point I was trying to make, their perspective on the game itself is perfectly valid, and at least they engaged in the discussion. Meanwhile, the ones who really missed the boat were those who interpret criticism of anything related to Nutland as outright racism.
Yeah, this is crazy, dude. Not Cry feels like Genshin because you're racist, actually, because people are racist, end of story. There was absolutely nothing wrong with Nutland other than Mawika's hideous design, which is kind of what she brought up, by the way, saying it doesn't look like it belonged in Nutland, but she's racist for the same point. Nutland felt like Genshin. Some of you were just racist and you don't even know it. White woman loves Western aesthetics in an Asian gacha game. Shocking. Just say you like Eurocentric, only like Eurocentric stuff. Oh my god, your takes are so bad faith against Nutland. But it's like Sumeru felt like Genshin for her. Anyone notice that most of the people that don't like Nutland say culture wasn't represented well, which is a lie. Also, Glaze Fontaine and predominantly white regions. It's just crazy, dude. It's crazy.
Out of over 1,000 comments, I saw one person who was an actual bigot, and they're not welcome here.
What is this? Nutland just has... oh, yeah. For sure. Not conservative with their designs. Wait, what does that mean? Too revealing? Showing too much skin? I mean, that's a fair take. The first part is fucked up. The second part is fair, but I feel like that's just the thing with most gacha games, to be honest.
Accusing
and other
people
regions.
of racism because they felt a video game's aesthetics were incohesive is utterly unhinged.
Yeah, it is.
People on both sides of that whole Nutland debate fall prey to this same tribalism. I've seen some people who agreed with my perspective, but spent their time bashing those who like Nutland's designs. That's just as disappointing as the behavior of those who bash people for disliking disliking
And that's the tribalism, baby.
them. If you find yourself on the verge of giving into that temptation, it's worth taking a step back and maybe think about it for an hour or two before you go ahead and reply.
Yep.
Tribalism kills nuanced discussion, especially when it comes to critiques of games which people care about so much. There's always a reason behind your like or dislike of something, and figuring them out can be fascinating. Far more interesting than just saying this is peak or this is ass and leaving it at that. For
Yeah.
those who agree, gaining greater insight can be validating, and it can actually reduce resentment and bring back appreciation for the other parts of the game they liked, or even provide enough emotional distance that they can start seeing the positives of the parts which didn't work for them. For those who don't agree, it can help them understand the other perspective on that point and maybe spark discussion which lets them share their love for it in a way which might help others see the positives at last. While
Yep.
the echo chambers are loud, they really are a tiny minority of the community at large. In case anyone skipped to the
Yeah, I mean, they definitely are a tiny minority of the community, but it's also like they're so loud that they feel like a fucking majority. Because it's the thing is, even though they're a minority of the community, when everything gets enveloped by that minority, it starts to feel like a majority because it's all you see and all you can interact with.